kick it off.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. This is the CPUN Sustainability Committee November meeting. And tonight we're going to be talking about electrifying our homes. We did a conversation like this last year with a great national nonprofit called Rewiring America that I think went pretty well. But I think a couple of reasons why we want to do this. So one, as we head into the winter, I think people are always looking for ways to save on their utility costs, their heating costs. But also, I think what's even better this year is there are even more rebates, incentives, subsidies at the local, at the utility level, at the state level, at the federal level, which makes a lot of these products, these appliances to electrify your home, which tend to be more expensive than their sort of gas-powered counterparts, make them as close as possible to, or even cheaper than buying one of those. But it's also kind of confusing. I think people don't always know that a heat pump also means it also cools your home as well. So we have Elephant Energy, which I know has done some work in the neighborhood already, here to just talk about, give an overview, talk about what to do, and hopefully how to make sense of what your options are, how to use rebates, and I'll let you guys take it away from here.
Awesome. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate the intro. You could join our team out here as movement makers, spreading the good word.
Well, I know some of the people connected to your team, so.
Love it. Awesome. Well, yeah, no, we're excited to spend some time with the association today. Let's start by telling you who's going to be talking for the next 30 minutes or so and answering questions. So JJ, I'll actually let you go first. Do your quick bio.
Yeah, so my name is JJ. I've been with Elephant since last June. And so outside of our founders, I was the first salesperson here at Elephant. So have about 1.5 years of experience now selling and designing these heat pump systems. As Bobby said, we've done a bunch in the Central Park neighborhood already, actually. As a lot of you probably know, the houses, built there in the early 2000s are right about coming up on, time to replace the original HVAC system. So we've done a bunch in the neighborhood, but hundreds in the Denver Boulder area. And I have been working on basically designing and selling Mitsubishi heat pump systems for the most part. And we're going to talk a lot about that today, but Bobby, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Well, I got to put you on the spot. Why do you do what you do? Why do you care about home electrification?
Yeah, I've been working sort of in the climate adjacent space for probably 5 to 6 years before I came to Elephant, in a variety of different roles, but really important to me that my daily work goes towards something that I really care about personally, and if there's any sort of movement that I care about, that my work can contribute to is climate change and any impact that we can make. And I think so far, just being at Elephant, I think this is the most tangible impact that any job I've had in my career has made. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. So I'll go next. I'm Bobby Foley, also with Elephant Energy, home comfort specialist. My background, I actually spent 10 years working for the company CarMax, the used car dealer, and did a variety of things for them. About half my time was actually in the stores. The other half was on the corporate side doing data analytics and working on kind of big picture projects. But after 10 years, I realized I actually don't care where people buy cars from. So ultimately, I realized I wanted to do something I cared about. And in that process, actually, while I was trying to figure out what I do next, I wanted to electrify my home because this was about 2 years ago. I lived in Virginia. I started learning about it and said, this seems like a good thing to do. Exactly as JJ said, it felt like one of the steps I could take to contribute fighting human-caused climate change. And the process stunk. It was terrible. I was the general contractor. I was trying to bring in people in and out, managing rebates. And it was just so hard that it literally led me to start to work in this industry. Just the more I learned, I said, yes, this is something I'd be passionate about. So I've been in the industry for about 1 year. As JJ said, just really excited to share my knowledge of what I've learned here, because it is one of the most impactful things we can do as individuals is electrify our home. So yeah, that's who you're going to be hearing from for the next 35 minutes. Our agenda, and then I'll kick it over to JJ for the first section here, is we got 4 things for y'all. First is a climate-friendly home. this slide actually used to be like electrified homes, but it's actually it's a little bit bigger than that. So JJ's kind of just share about what a climate friendly home is and looks like. We'll go into how heat pumps and heat pump water heaters and some of these appliances actually work. Lastly, we'll touch on rebates and tax credits. This thing costs money. However, there's a lot of really great incentives, as Brad was saying at the beginning. So we're going to show you some actual invoices that we've shared with customers, either in Denver or Central Park, and just what this could look like to complete at your home, and then finish with some Q&A. So start with that. Oh man, there's animations in this slide. I didn't know that. JJ, you're up first. I'll control it for you.
Okay. All right. Okay, so 3 rules for a climate-friendly home. I don't know if anybody has seen like our most recent Elephant Energy video, but there's a really good one about this concept of don't burn stuff. So basically the concept is, for hundreds or thousands of years, humans have been burning stuff to get energy, to create heat, to cook our food, all kinds of stuff. And so I think we're at a phase with technology and at a point in climate change where we need to stop burning stuff. And so what this means is switching to a heat pump for heating and cooling is the easiest way to get rid of natural gas in your home, which most of you probably know this, but a furnace contributes to probably 80% of the natural gas usage in your home. So getting rid of that is the biggest dent. And so heat pumps these days, the technology has come far enough that a cold climate heat pump can take care of all the heating and cooling needs in your home with one system. And so the equivalent for water heating is a heat pump water heater, fully electric, which uses a hybrid of electric resistance technology and a heat pump to actually heat the water in the tank. Super efficient way to get hot water for your home. And then getting rid of gas stoves. And I don't know if there's been a few articles the last couple of years that have come out to show just how damaging gas stoves are for indoor air quality, and contributes to things like childhood asthma, things like that. And so changing out your gas stove for an induction stove is another big impact, and maybe the biggest for air quality. And then obviously, if we're going to be switching over from gas vehicles to electric vehicles to further that movement, I'm going to need an EV charger, and ideally a level 2 EV charger that'll help you charge your car faster, get to a full charge overnight so you can use it throughout the day. And yeah, what is the next thing here, Bobby? Okay, yeah, another big chunk of this, solar. And so Elephant is not directly involved in solar yet, although maybe one day we will sort of enter that arena, because we'd like to really be able to offer the full picture of home electrification. But if you're going to be fully electric, what really helps with first of all energy costs, but also just being able to not lean so much on the utility for all of your electric needs. Getting your own rooftop solar or joining a community solar co-op, or there are also options with Excel and other utilities to try to buy your electricity from a cleaner source. And so you can ask for that to be taken from a wind farm or solar farm. And the other thing you can do is to purchase a battery backup, and so to store some of that energy coming from solar to power things in your home. So that is it for that. And then just being efficient. And so another big aspect of this is using less energy, not just switching from gas to electric, but try to use less energy overall. And the really good way to do that, the best way to do that in your home, is to weatherize it. And insulation and air sealing is something that has become a lot better in the last 5 to 10 years in building code. But even in the early 2000s, they were insulating, but really not up to what today's standards are. So there may still be a lot of homes in the Denver area that could use some major improvement in air sealing and insulation, both in the attic, walls, basements, all that kind of stuff. And so if you haven't had an energy audit, that's a big thing. We would recommend getting an energy audit to get an idea of where the opportunities are to improve insulation and air sealing in the home. And the more that you do, the less you pay for your energy, because if you're paying to heat your home and that heat is just escaping the home right away, then you're wasting a lot of your money. You're wasting a lot of that energy. So the more you insulate and air seal, the more of that energy you keep in your home and the less you pay on your bills. And then another thing is scheduling regular maintenance for your appliances. So just making sure that you have your furnace and hopefully your heat pump soon regularly maintained. And installing a smart panel is another really cool thing. It gives you a way to actually track how much power you're using, and see where there might be issues with any electrical appliances. So you can ask us for any more details about a smart panel.
All right. Thanks, JJ. So JJ covered really just that climate-friendly home and what it is. This next slide is like, why does it matter? What are the benefits to you actually as the homeowner? And why should you want a climate-friendly home? So we've got 5 points. And as you can see on the bottom, these are all actually grounded in different studies. So we've linked to the different groups that have published this information. The first of those 5 benefits is really what JJ just talked about, the cleaner planet. So an electric home emits substantially less carbon, between 25 and 93% less carbon over 15 years. That number ranges just because different areas have different grids that are still pulling from fossil fuels versus all electric and natural energy grid. So yeah, electrifying your home, that's the mission that we're on here, is for a cleaner planet. But there's a lot more than that. So it actually increases comfort. So electrification and weatherization upgrades actually ensure more consistent temperature control. You're paying for this energy. Don't heat and cool all of Central Park neighborhood. Let your neighbors heat and cool their own homes. It's also more comfortable too. I mean, we'll get into how a heat pump works, but it's actually moving more air versus a lot of these old school furnaces. So with a heat pump, you'll experience more even temperature across your whole home. And we can get into more about that. But definitely when you take the steps of being efficient and electrifying, it's more comfortable. Saving money, that's a big one here. So homeowners who electrified save an average of $1,000 to $2,500 each year on energy bills. These appliances, new technology, they're more efficient. And we'll get into some of the specifics there. Everyone likes lower utility bills, I'm going to assume. So that's an easy one. Adding home value. This is actually something that has come up when I'm talking with potential, home electrification customers is, hey, this is new. Is this going to hurt the value of my home? Do other people want to buy a home that has a heat pump versus a furnace? We are at the point with this technology that it's desirable. So upgrading to a heat pump can increase the value of the home by 4 to 7%, as told by Zillow. And I'll even share a personal story on this one. So I told you all about that home I electrified in Virginia. I don't live in Virginia. I live in Colorado now. So I actually rent that out. And when I went to rent it, I showed my solar panels. I showed all electric. And I got interest from customers saying, that's great. This is the type of house I want to live in, and found an awesome renter that showed me there's a market for it out there. And I think that market's only going to grow, as proven by Zillow. And then the last one on there is increased health and safety. So gas is combustible. That is dangerous. So just getting it out of the home eliminates the need for a carbon monoxide detector. Almost 13% of childhood asthma attributed to gas stove. That's right in your face when you're cooking over a gas stove. So, really all 5 of these are obviously selling points. And hopefully there's one in here for you, whoever's listening, that tells you, yes, I like that, I'm interested. What I think is really important is, like, we're trying to start a movement here. We want to get the word out there. We're going to talk in a little bit about myths around this. But I hope everyone listening is part of this movement now. So know these 5 points. And when you hear someone saying, oh, it's too expensive to go all electric, or it's not as comfortable, I hope you'll kind of remember these talking points and speak to those. Because you're listening, you're part of our movement now. All right, JJ, I think you've got the next slide here, and you're going to start talking about how heat pumps work.
Yeah. All right. So a couple different types of systems that we do. And so this is a Mitsubishi ducted heat pump. And so what's called an air source heat pump. Basically, this is the majority of what we do. A lot of people have ducted furnaces. And so what we can do is replace your old furnace with what that looks like. On the left is an indoor air handler. which is then connected to this outdoor condenser, which would typically go in the place of your central HC unit if you have one. And that would be connected. And it just uses the existing ductwork. We do our due diligence and take some measurements of the ductwork to make sure everything's going to work, and that there's enough space to fit the equipment. It's sometimes a little bit larger, and so you can kind of tell by looking that that unit is a little bit larger than a typical furnace, but there's usually some way that we can finagle it even into a tight space. And has more airflow than most furnaces, and so and part of that is also it has what's called a variable speed compressor, and so more advanced ACs and furnaces have those, but almost all heat pumps have variable speed heat pumps, and so as Bobby mentioned, it keeps airflow moving more constantly, which actually leads to better comfort. And so and uses less energy overall when you're able to run it more frequently in a very low stage, meaning just using low amounts of energy more constantly than what a furnace does, which really just blasts a ton of heat all at once and then shuts off and then blasts a bunch of heat. And so what that also does, a furnace, when it does that, it dries out the air in the home, whereas a heat pump doesn't have so much of a drying effect. So we don't need our air any drier in Colorado than it already is. And so another reason I like heat pumps is that it doesn't have that drying effect on your indoor air. And then they are about 3 times more efficient than high efficiency furnaces. And so a little bit hard to make that conversion sometimes between, gas usage and electric usage. They're charged at different rates. You're using different units of measurement. But if you think about energy efficiency in terms of COP, or a technical term that means coefficient of performance. And so whereas a lot of gas furnaces have a COP of 1 or 2, a heat pump is up at 3 or 4. And so using a lot less energy input to get the energy output that you need to adequately heat and or cool your home. So really efficient, really cool technology. And what we are, the stage we're at now with heat pumps is really cool. What you're looking at here is a cold climate heat pump from Mitsubishi. That little logo on the outdoor condenser on the right says H2I. That means hyperheat in Mitsubishi language. And so that means it's able to heat your home at 100% capacity down to -5 Fahrenheit and even colder than that. And so we would actually take a look at your home's needs and figure out how to size the heat pump appropriately so it's covering you down into sub-freezing temperatures, sub-zero temperatures even. And this is something where a conventional HVAC contractor will tell you that this doesn't exist and this is not possible. And I'm seeing a question from Sarah right now. And we'll get into probably more details at the end about that. But yes, a lot of HVAC contractors will tell you you need to replace your old furnace with a new furnace and then put a heat pump on it. And so that is what you'll get if you talk to a lot of conventional HVAC contractors. A lot of them are not really up to date with where we're at with cold climate heat pump technology. Some heat pumps certainly do need a backup gas furnace because they don't use the same cold climate technology. But we're happy to talk about how you can actually get rid of gas for good by going with a cold climate heat pump that's fully electric. You do not need a backup gas furnace. But yeah, it's still sort of a misconception and or something that people are still trying to sell you on because that's their industry and they want to sell more furnaces.
I think we have a slide in about 2 slides that actually gets to that exact myth. So Sarah, that's a wonderful question. The other thing that I'll bring up while we're on these pictures, and I'll go to the next slide, is just like how heat transfer actually works. It's pretty magic, right? So JJ and I are nerds. We could go really deep into this. We'll keep it high level, but like heat pumps are about heat transfer versus that furnace that's like actually burning the gas to make it. It's pretty incredible when you think about it. It could be 0 degrees outside, but your outdoor condenser is going to collect what little heat is outside, pump it through your system and push it through your indoor air handler. The magic of refrigerant, and again, tons of YouTube videos and go deep into that, but it's literally taking heat from outside on a 0 degree day, moving it in your home. And in the summer, it's doing the complete opposite, right? It's hot inside, cold outside. it's going to grab heat from inside your home, move it outside, and then push it outside of the outdoor condenser. So again, we probably don't have time or want to go that deep, but if you're a nerd like JJ and me, please YouTube how a heat pump works. There's some pretty cool stuff out there. All right, the other version we want to show you, Central Park, from everything I've seen, at least, most homes have ducted systems that are great to repurpose, but some homes actually don't have existing ductwork. A lot of homes, there's a lot of difference. Or we've seen homes that have additions that are not conditioned by ductwork, so those additions aren't treated. The solution there is a mini split head. You'll notice the same outdoor condenser, this picture on the right, but on the left, they come in a few different varieties. This one is a wall-mounted head. We can actually also put them in the ceiling if there's an attic above the ceiling. But essentially, this is an individual unit to treat just one space. They're super efficient. It can treat up to 1,000 square feet. Depending on how many rooms you're looking to treat, sometimes just one works, sometimes you need to add a few. But that same outdoor condenser will power, up to 5, sometimes even more with a crazy design, but you can get up to 5 mini split heads off of one outdoor condenser. These are really efficient because you actually don't have ductwork, and your heat or cold air can sometimes escape through your ductwork. So again, I think with Central Park, the majority of homes were doing the ducted system. However, if you've got additions or you've got friends that you're trying to, sell on the magic of heat pumps, and they say, well, my ductwork is bad, do not worry, we got a solution for them. So, well, JJ, you did the bulk of the talking. I got the easy cleanup on the mini splits, and I think we're back to you. And Sarah, yeah, it was a great question. This is our first slide about myth busting. So JJ, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah. Okay. So there's definitely a bunch of naysayers out there still, like I was saying. Most of them are, just conventional HVAC contractors who have installed 1 million gas furnaces in their day, and they show no signs of stopping installing those gas furnaces. If you tell them you're interested in a heat pump, they say, of course, we can do it. So we'll give you this brand new furnace, and then we'll slap a heat pump coil on top of it. And then, you'll get 60% of your heat from a heat pump. And then once it gets below freezing, you have to lean on this furnace for your heat. And that's heat pump technology that's still available. And those types of heat pumps are great for the West Coast maybe, or the South, but they're not really meant for a climate like Colorado or a lot of the Midwest, where those heat pumps really aren't going to do good once you get under freezing, under 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And so that is where cold climate heat pumps come in. That technology has really ramped up in the last 20 years and has become a lot more widely available in the last 5 to 10 years. And I've seen in the Boulder area, it's kind of exploded in the last 5 years. So a lot of people getting cold climate heat pumps, completely getting rid of gas. Even up in Fraser, Colorado, you guys spend a bunch of time up in the mountains. That a lot of regions of the mountains don't have natural gas service. They have propane. And so propane is even more expensive than natural gas to use. So those people are like, I want to ditch this propane tank. Can I do my home fully electric? And so even up in Fraser, Colorado, which is nicknamed the icebox of the nation because they have record cold temperatures there every year, they're installing cold climate heat pumps to heat the homes throughout the winter. So yeah, in much colder places in the Front Range, you can get away with a heat pump with no backup gas furnace. And the other sort of misconception is that gas is cheaper to heat the home. So like I was mentioning a couple slides ago, gas and electricity are metered differently, and they have different costs per unit. And so gas overall is cheaper. So if you're comparing a gas furnace to a more traditional form of electric heat, like electric baseboards, the gas furnace is much cheaper to heat your home than it is with electric baseboards, which is a very outdated technology, just electric resistance heat, very inefficient. And so, but the thing that changes with the heat pump is that COP. So even though electricity is in general more expensive than gas, it is much more efficient with the energy that it puts in. And so it uses much less to actually get the same result. So I saw this question from Brad here really quick. So the supply chain, it was nasty for a while. And so I think when I first started here, even in 22, we were still kind of recovering from supply chain issues that were started by COVID, and then kind of got worse when a bunch of the other incentives for heat pumps came out, and that supply chain kind of got wiped out. We now have an actual warehouse, and so we keep a pretty constant supply of heat pump equipment. And so we've sometimes there is heat pump equipment that is months out, but we've been pretty continually ordering it for the last 2 years, and so we've got quite a stockpile and are always sort of restocking that. So we haven't had too many issues recently. I don't remember the last time that we didn't have the equipment that we needed. Usually we have it, or we're able to get it pretty quickly. So luckily that's gotten better. Yeah, and so yeah, just with the work that Elephant has done, we've proven that both of these things are myths. Hundreds of all-electric heat pumps in the Denver Boulder area we've installed with no gas backup, in a lot of cases with no electric backup. And so a lot of other contractors will tell you, if you don't do the gas backup furnace, you have to do electric resistance heat as a backup, which can be very expensive if it's used a lot. So what we can do is we can spec backup electric heat to be used very minimally, say only when it gets below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Or we talk about, pros and cons, and we actually find the exact heat load of your home with a proprietary sizing method. We can talk about, how we got to the sizing requirements that we find for your home, and what we call the balance point, which is the point at which it may be hard to keep your home at, say, 70 degrees. It might not be perfectly comfortable when it's -15 outside. Or, so you can choose to put in that backup electric heat strip, or you can choose to wear a sweater or have a series of space heaters for those rare cold snaps. But you're not going to be without heat. So the data that we've gathered on all the heat pumps we've installed is nobody has lost heat. And so nobody needs to worry about freezing pipes or being actually freezing in your home. And so, yeah, even through the winter of 2022, where we saw, I think we hit -15 twice, in some places -18, nobody lost heat throughout those cold snaps. And then we also just keep track of the actual energy usage, and we're showing that people are getting utility bill savings and improved home comfort. And especially if you have like an older gas furnace and a conventional AC, the savings are pretty clear, switching from heating and cooling with the furnace and AC to heating and cooling with the heat pump. So
Awesome.
anything else
Thanks,
to add on
JJ.
that, Bobby? Yeah.
Yeah. We got a question came in from Mark. So thanks, Mark. Question was, if someone has a working HVAC system that's 15 to 20 years old, should they wait for it to die before replacing, or should they move right ahead to get those energy savings now? Great question. Once you're at that point where your furnace is towards the end of its life, absolutely recommend making a proactive move. You don't want it to be mid-January and your furnace goes out and then scrambling to try to do this. There's some HVAC companies who can get you a furnace in a 1 or 2 day turnaround, but it's a cheap furnace in my experience, what I've seen, and they overcharge for it. Doing the fuel switch to a heat pump takes a little bit more planning. We got to get an electrician out to come out and get you set up for that, and then the change in equipment. So when you're making this fuel switch, it's definitely best to be proactive. And we're going to get to some pricing in a minute, because the cost of going to the heat pump versus the furnace with all the rebates and tax credits is often much less expensive than putting in just a 1-for-1 furnace. And then you've got the newest technology and all those utility bill savings. So great question, Mark. Absolutely recommend not waiting until it's completely broken before going down that road.
Yeah, and just to add to that, there's hundreds of HVAC contractors who are happy to give you a gas furnace tomorrow, and there's a lot less that are doing what we do. And so it's not just harder to do, is not more work to do, not just more work to do with the electrical work and everything, but most installers of heat pumps are about 2 to 3 weeks out on their schedule, if not more. And so right now we're scheduling 3 to 5 weeks out, just because of the installer availability, equipment availability, and just the backlog of people who are interested in taking advantage of all the incentives out there.
Yeah. So the next slide we have is, we talked about heat pumps, but another, I think, great appliance for people to really check the age of your current equipment and consider is the heat pump water heater. When I moved into my house in Denver a little over a year ago, this was the first thing we did. It's got one of the highest return on investment, and we'll show you some pricing here in a few slides, and you can just see truly how affordable it is when you stack some rebates and credits. But essentially, a lot of homes have a gas water heater, burning gas to heat up your water. This is using electricity, and it's doing it in two ways. It will actually slowly and incredibly efficiently pull latent heat from the air around it. And then it also has electric coils. Let's say you take 4 showers in a row, you got all the in-laws in town, and you need to heat it up quicker than just pulling in latent heat. It does have the ability to turn on some electric strips and heat up faster. But the stats on this, 2 to 3 times more efficient versus a conventional electric resistance water heater, or even a gas water heater. So oftentimes we go into houses and they've got that yellow sticker that says, expected utility bill cost from the manufacturer, $300 some. With the smart heat pump water heaters we put in, that number is closer to $110 for a 50-gallon tank. So about 3 times more efficient and cost savings. It's also nice is they don't generate heat. So, gas leaks, toxic emissions, you're getting gas out of the home. And it's also, if you're installing in a space that has, excess heat, it can be great for efficiency. Because again, it's pulling heat from the air around it. Me personally, ours is in our basement. It's a nice big space. Pulling some heat out of it. We use it as a gym, so honestly, we don't mind it a little cooler. That's taking some of that heat. Definitely, ready to answer questions if people want to know about that experience. But love the utility bill savings and getting gas out of our home. So the last kind of like how it works we want to talk through is JJ, who actually used to work in the energy efficiency realm, can just talk, I'd say at a high level, and that's a lot of words on the slide, JJ, but just like you mentioned at the beginning, benefits to an energy audit. Why is that a great step for someone who wants to be more efficient in their home?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so on that previous slide I mentioned, an energy audit is a really good place to start. And so through most contractors, if they're on the Excel Energy approved contractor list for energy audits, you can get an instant rebate on an energy audit. So they're typically about $350, but Excel gives a $200 upfront rebate. So you pay about $150, and you get a comprehensive report, usually about 30 pages of information on your home, an evaluation of the energy efficiency in the building, the current levels of insulation in the walls, attic, and basement, crawl space, whatever it is, and then identifies where there are inefficiencies and lets you know, like, this is the places that you should focus on, improving insulation and air sealing to lower your costs for energy. They also do a health and safety test. And so they'll do what's called a combustion safety test, where they check out the gas appliances, if you have any. And you'll notice that if you have a heat pump, you never have any health and safety issues with those. But with a gas water heater, especially atmospherically vented, when you depressurize the home for a blower door test, which is part of the audit, sometimes you get what's called backdrafting of combustion gases into the home, and it can happen with the furnace too. And so what that goes to show is that, yeah, first of all, there's not enough makeup air coming into the home to help those combustion gases safely get outside. But also just goes to show that, yeah, these natural gas appliances aren't meant to be mixing with our indoor air. Really bad consequences for your respiratory health, and then just indoor air quality in general. And so, yeah, they basically, I don't know if you've ever seen what an energy audit looks like, but they will put a big fan on the door, depressurize the home, and they use this cool infrared scanner to see where you see heat signatures on the outdoor parts of the home. You can see where heat's escaping, first of all, so where insulation might need to be improved, or there might need to be some air sealing done. And so, but it's a really good place to start. Gives you a lot of really good recommendations, and can a lot of acting on those recommendations. A lot of them can drastically reduce your energy bills just by doing some pretty basic stuff. So really helpful place to start.
Awesome. Thank you, JJ. So we got the last segment of our planned topics, so then we'll see if there's any more questions and answers to get to. But rebates and tax credits, what does this stuff cost? So what we've actually prepared for you is two different actual invoices we shared with customers. One was a heat pump project, one was a heat pump water heater. Obviously took the customer information off. But really what I think is cool is that you'll see is just how to stack different rebates and incentives to make this affordable, because there's a lot of great programs to help us electrify our homes now. So I'll walk through this one line by line. This was a customer that we helped put in a 3-ton heat pump. For context, most homes in Central Park that I've seen are either 3 or 4 tons. If it's 4 tons, it's another $1,000 or $2,000 on the top line price. But again, just for context, this was a project we did with a 3-ton heat pump in Denver. You can see if it was just paying full value and no rebates or credits, about $20,000. And for context, usually we kind of see furnaces come in 14, 15, give or take. They're all over the board, but like, yes, it is more expensive than just doing a like for like furnace, a little more complex of a job. However, let's look at these rebates. So Excel, our utility provider, is going to pay for $2,200 of this rebate. And companies like us are actually able to take it as a point of sale, take it off the top line price. Then the city of Denver is going to kick in. So they'll actually pay for the $3,500 of this heat pump. And we have to bring an electrician on site. And if you're doing a project like this, you can get up to $2,000 covered for electrical upgrades. They say 80% of the project up to $2,000. So Denver will pay for another $1,400 of this project. Then we've actually got some tax credits. So all those other rebates are point of sale. But then when you go to file your taxes at the end of the year, you can deduct, or actually get a true tax credit. So 1,178 is what this customer qualified for. And then the federal income tax credit is $2,000. So basically you file it as long as you have income liability. This comes back as a rebate check. So the total incentives came out to over $10,000 for this heat pump. The net cost to the customer was $9,617. So that is a real invoice that a customer got to experience. And again, just highlights when you stack all these rebates, it goes from something that is more expensive than a furnace to significantly less. And this customer will pay less in utility bills as a result too. So I've got that. And then JJ, you want to walk us through similar example, but with a 50-gallon heat pump water heater.
Yeah, gladly. And I saw Sarah said she'd like to get a PDF. I think we are going to share the whole deck, right? Yeah. So you'll be able to access this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have a whole slide on your question about the $8,000 federal rebates. And so that's
I can touch on that after JJ.
Yeah. Okay.
Got that queued up.
We'll get to that. So for a heat pump water heater, so we're finding, again, just because of, the additional upfront work of doing electrical, it's a pretty major electrical upgrade. You need a 240-volt circuit for a heat pump water heater. So a little bit higher upfront cost, but you get a $800 rebate from Excel, $1,750 from Denver, and $884 for the electrical work from Denver as well. And so that's all taken off the top. And then you also get about $2,400 worth of tax credits. And so in Denver, I think anybody who lives in Denver should be doing a heat pump water heater, because if you only need a 50-gallon, you can do it for about $1,000. So kind of a no-brainer in my mind. The one caveat here I will say is that if you're going to do a heat pump and a heat pump water heater in the same year, you can't claim that federal tax credit on both. So that federal tax credit is for either a heat pump or a heat pump water heater. It's the same category of that federal tax credit of the IRA. And so, but if you're just looking to do the water heater, that is a pretty convincing breakdown. I think even easier decision to make than the heat pump. And go ahead, Bobby.
I was going to jump into some questions. So we got 2 on there. Sarah, you asked, we're not tax guys. Thank you for acknowledging that. We are not tax guys, but we can tell you how we read the tax code. Consult your tax professional. But you are correct in that it comes off the taxes you owe, not your adjusted gross income. This is not a deduction. It is a true credit. So if you paid $20,000 in income tax to the federal government in a year, that's what you owed. This would take it down to 18 and what you truly owe. So if you get a rebate check, your rebate check will be $2,000 higher. If you owe at the end of the year, you'll owe $2,000 less. So that is how we understand it. And as someone who's personally taken it, that's what I've experienced. And then Mark, you asked the question, my water heater is only about 3 years old. Should I go ahead and replace it soon? That is a very common question we get with customers. I mean, this pricing is amazing. It's $1,000 to make the switch. You'll save $200 a year on your utility bill. You will emit less carbon. That's up to you. Honestly, once it's like 7, 8 years and beyond, to me, it's a slam dunk. Yes, you're already halfway through the gas furnace. My mission here is to get gas out of homes. However, I also don't like being wasteful. If it's only 3 years old, it's like maybe spend some money doing some other electrification, carbon emitting projects, and get to that eventually. If you want to replace it, I'd love to do it just for the carbon savings, but obviously the math is different in terms of the return on investment.
I always tell people I think it depends on your priorities. If you're concerned about getting gas out of the home, I think it's still worth doing. But even then, like I mentioned, a furnace uses 80% of the gas usage in your home. A water heater is about 10%, and so it's a pretty small dent in actual gas usage. But I think it comes down to a financial decision, a decision about air quality, and whether you want to use gas in your home, and then also the factor of it's only a three-year-old water heater. I don't want to pull it out and send it to the landfill. We do try to recycle any old equipment that we remove, but it's usually just the metal components that are getting recycled. So I do see that argument as well.
Yeah, I don't want to recycle it and put that gas water heater in someone else's house. I want to decommission it.
Yeah.
There's one thing I was going to add on. That was a great answer, JJ. I think you, like you said, I know what I was going to add. If it's the last gas appliance in your house, Excel's charging you $10 to $15 a month just to have access to gas. So that actually kicks into the ROI too. That's my favorite moment in the job, when a customer replaces their last gas appliance. We can call Excel and say, no more gas to this house. It's a full gas-free home. So that can also be a reason why you'd want to replace an even newer appliance. Stop paying for even the right to have gas.
And I saw a question from Mark on induction ranges. We don't actually install them. That's correct. But whenever we're doing a project like a heat pump or a heat pump water heater, a lot of times the gas stove is the last thing that needs to go. And so what people have us do is, and the way that we can help with that is just, since we have an electrician on site running the circuit for the heat pump and the heat pump water heater, we'll go ahead and run a new circuit for that induction range, another 50 amp circuit. And then when it comes time, you order an induction range from the supplier, and usually they have folks that can come out, pull out the gas range, and dispose of that, and put in the new induction range and hook it up. So there's a little bit of coordination there with getting a plumber to come out as well and cap the gas line, but we're happy to talk through all the logistics of that with you as well.
So we are in our Q&A section, and thank you to everyone who's been putting them in the chat. Feel free to come off mute if you want to ask them too. But I'm actually going to start. There was a question by Sarah around $8,000 rebates from the IRA for heat pumps, and we anticipated that question. I'm going to flip ahead into my appendix here, and I have 2 quick slides on it. The first one explains there are rebates that are coming, and they've recently been announced as end of 2024. What's been a little bit frustrating on our end is they originally were announced. I mean, JJ, you probably know better than I do. Like beginning of 2023 at some point, and then late 2023, and then 2024. It, as governments go, keeps getting pushed back. I think it's actually one of the hardest parts about our job is we're talking about rebates that haven't been finalized yet, and we don't have a clear date. We will be super excited when we have these rebates. But Sarah, you're exactly right. There is additional money available for heat pumps and heat pump water heaters that's currently slated about a year from now. In this slide, we pulled two slides in directly from the Colorado Energy Office that walks through the two categories. What we're talking about here is the HERA, Home Electrification Appliance Rebate. This is what I'll point out was very important is, will any of this money be available to customers with income higher than 150% AMI, stands for area median income? That answer is no. This money is targeted for low and middle income housing across America. And so Colorado's figuring out their rollout plan, but this will only be available for households who make 150% their area median income or less. What is area median income? Great question. There's some online tools. It's different for every zone. Again, much more complex for us to get in, but if you're wondering, do I qualify? In Denver, JJ, tell me if you do anything differently, but I usually say if you're about 120K or above, you likely won't qualify. Again, more details to come, but that's about a general rule of thumb I use, and there's some online tools for that. And then again, this is just another slide that comes from the CEO that talks through where they're at in this process and when will that money be available. So we anticipated a question. It's a great question, Sarah, and hopefully this gives an update on like what we know. It's not finalized yet, but this is what we're anticipating and super excited to help customers when it's available. JJ, would you add anything to that?
No, I just that this is a federal program that they're leading up to states to legislate exactly how those rules work out, and so they will apply for the federal funds as it says in spring 2024, and then in the summer fall 2024 they will prepare for program deployment. So at the very earliest, I expect it'll be deployed end of 2024, possibly 2025 at this point. And they are actually leaving it up to states how to work out those rebates between low and middle income. And so they could still actually decide that these rebates will only go to low income households, so 80% of AMI or less. Or it may be a sliding scale where if you are 80% or less, you can receive up to $8,000. If you're between 80 and 150% of AMI, you can get up to $4,000. So we don't even know what their decision will be on who gets that money and how much they can get.
Definitely a complex setup for now. We look forward to clarity when it comes out. What other questions, either in the chat or did people come off mute?
Did we miss anything?
Sticking to the rebate side of things, has Excel refreshed? Are they planning to change their rebates at all, or are they kind of sticking where they are?
That's a great question. They recently in September not only re-upped on the rebates, but added money to them. Okay. So this line for the cold climate heat pump 2200, it used to be 1700 and they took it up to 2200. So they're committed to these rebates. I don't know when this next one expires, but they've been adding money to rebates, not taking it away over time.
Yeah, well, that's great to hear, because I know the city of Denver ones went down quite a bit in terms of the rebate size. So that's good. Someone else is stepping up too.
So I mean, that's interesting. I joined the industry towards the end of that. I know what happens. The money ran out really quickly. A lot of people interested, and they said, "Ooh, we're giving too much per project." Yep. So what they did is they lessened that amount to spread it out and help more households take advantage. And they've been successful. We still have money left in that pot as we're getting towards the end of the year. And they've also indicated that this is something they plan to continue to fund. So every rebate is subject to change, but right now they're strong, and we don't have any indication that they're going anywhere.
So for people that are maybe hearing about this for the first time, could you walk through, like, let's just say you contact a installer about getting a heat pump, like what would be the typical process and timeline from, say, like first contact to installed heat pump?
JJ, you want to take that one?
So the question is, what's the total timeline from first contact to actually having your heat pump installed? Yeah. A little bit of that depends on like the urgency of the customer. We were just able to do about a week and a half 2-week turnaround for a customer whose furnace actually died. So they're just kind of scraping by right now. But we had been working with them for a while, and their furnace just kind of happened to die. So we were able to pull off a 2-week turnaround, but that is really pushing it for us. And so typically, from the day that you sign a contract with us, there's a 3 to 5 week lead time. So that is actually pretty good for us historically too. We used to be on an 8 to 10 week lead time. That was over the summer. And then we really ramped up our project management to get things installed faster. But usually, if you go on our website and submit some information, you can schedule a call with one of us, me or Bobby, or one of the other home comfort advisors at Elephant within a couple days, or even the day of. If you have a lot of urgency, we can usually find a way to talk to you that day, schedule an actual home comfort consultation where we come out to your house. Again, if you have a pretty high sense of urgency, we can get there within a couple days. We'll then spend 45 minutes or an hour taking some measurements and taking a bunch of photos and figuring out which equipment we'd want to put in your home, come up with a personalized proposal for you, which we'll get to you within 24 hours. And then, so really it's, 3 to 5 weeks plus a few days of the front end work that we have to do. So that's about average right now. And in an emergency situation, sometimes we can whip it into shape a little bit faster and work quickly for the customer. So.
And would you say for the water heater, is that timeline accelerated a little bit because it's kind of more? Yeah. Okay.
Quite a bit, yeah. So it's still usually not like we can come and install a water heater tomorrow. 1 to 2 weeks though is pretty average. I do think that the holidays are messing with our schedule a little bit right now. So coming up on Thanksgiving, water heaters are not being pushed until after that as of right now, but still is not a very long timeline compared to the heat pump.
I saw a question
Yeah,
coming from Sarah. The
Yeah.
invoice that's on the screen now, the approximate square footage of that house. So this is one I did. I think it was about 1,800 square feet, and that's what led to the 3-ton system. JJ and I were going back and forth right before this if we should scramble and try to pull together a 4-ton as well. A 4-ton heat pump can go 2,500. If it's a well-insulated house, even over 3,000 square feet, and the upfront cost that's around 21,000. Every project's unique, right? So it can be higher, it can be lower, but yeah, to answer your question, Sarah, this house was about 1,800 square feet, relatively simple design. And we've done some really simple designs in Central Park too, where it's not too complex with the location of equipment. You gotta have that nice, beautiful electrical panel that's outside, not inside. We love to see that. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question, and let me know if there's anything more in there that we can answer.
Usually with even going up to a 4-ton system, it's not too drastically different. It can go up to 21, sometimes depending on the complexity of the project of like 22. But then, you're still, after rebates, you're down around 11 grand or so compared to that 9,600. So still relatively low cost. And compared to, Bobby, you had mentioned earlier, I wanted to add this in too. So the upfront cost there of like 19.8, about 20 grand, and you said a high efficiency furnace can run 16. Anything where it's like if folks are getting quotes for high efficiency furnace and AC combos, these days I'm seeing a lot around 20 grand. So a lot of times they're even the same cost before rebates, and you can get a couple rebates for high efficiency furnaces from Excel about on the matter of a few $100s, nothing compared to the heat pump rebates and all the tax credits that you can get. So your after rebates cost is definitely much lower for the heat pump, especially if you're in a place like Denver.
So I have a question that I'm guessing isn't going to be the same answer that it was a couple years ago for me, but we had to replace our entire HVAC system in the middle of December. Fortunately, it was a nice 60-some degree warm day. And none of this was available at the time. The rebates hadn't launched yet. But one of the things that led us to go with the company we went with was they offered at the time 0% financing for something like 5 years or something like that on the system. Do you guys have financing options for this? And here's the crazy part. I assume none of it's 0% financing anymore.
Yeah, rates have changed a little bit in the past few years, I think. We are certified, and a lot of installers are certified for this that do heat pumps through Colorado's Renew program. Residential energy low. Yeah.
I don't even know what
it's for
what
green
it is.
residential project. I used to know what it is.
Yeah.
The Renew program is Colorado state subsidized because again, they want this to be attractable to homeowners. So rates are high everywhere. I will admit that. But there's a slight subsidy that comes in for loans through the Renew program. There's 3 different credit unions that participate across the state of Colorado. And us and any other certified installer, you have access to that Renew pot of money where you can go get your loan, get a lower rate, and go up to 10 years for a heat pump. So a lot of our customers are taking that loan to get it done. It can be done with no money down. And then they're all simple interest, no prepayment penalty loans. So, pay off as fast as you need, but you can extend it out as long as 10 years. Everything in the Renew program, I believe, is 10 years, except solar loans can go up to 20 years.
Do you have any idea what the interest rates are on those, do you?
They fluctuate. Kind of a benchmark I use is I often hear that they're similar, if not a little bit lower than a traditional HELOC loan. So as some customers are exploring different options of where to pull this money. Oftentimes they're finding that this is the best way to do it. But they're about equivalent to what a HELOC or some other loans are. I wish I could give you a specific number, but they change and we don't know it for sure. So good question. Anything else? Any other questions?
I think that's it, unless anybody else does. But we'd love to make sure, especially in the PDF, if there's a way to contact you guys, if anybody has any other sort of specific questions, love to make sure we have that available.
Of course, no, we're here to expand the movement of home electrification. So we really appreciate you all inviting us to come talk to your neighborhood association. We at Elephant would obviously love to be your partner in this, but to be honest, as long as people are electrifying their homes, and please stop putting new gas furnaces and gas water heaters in your homes. We want people to join the movement and we want to grow the pie. So thank you for letting us come on and talk and educate. And yeah, please reach out with any additional questions you'll have.
We actually have one follow-up question before we go. For anybody who watches online later, what's the easiest way to find you if they want to get a quote for their system from you?
So the proposed, go ahead, JJ, you got it.
Well, we have a couple cool online tools. And so if you go to just elephantenergy.com, there's a couple of cool things you can do. You can actually get sort of a ballpark estimate online of what a system might cost, or you can just do like an online submission to get in touch with us, and then one of us will reach out to you right away. Or you can do what's called an electrification roadmap. And so if you're not ready to do a heat pump today, that's okay. There's a cool tool on our website where you can basically put in some information about your home, and then it actually walks you through what that journey of electrifying your home looks like. And so it basically asks you about your current appliances and says, like, this is what your priority should be if you're planning on moving towards an all-electric home. Maybe, get rid of that old gas stove first, or you have a 25-year-old furnace, that should be your first step. And walks you through the practicalities of doing those things step by step, a little bit of the costs, and then we're there to answer questions along the way. But here's also our direct contact information. You can email me or Bobby directly. I'm just jj@elephantenergy.us, and Bobby is just Bobby.
Yeah, if you're like, man, that JJ guy, he really knew his technical stuff. I don't want to get stuck talking to Bobby. Just email JJ directly.
And Megan, thanks for linking the Renew site that you can go and get actual information on how those loans work. And yeah, that's great to hear, Megan. You got a heat pump water heater, and like Bobby was saying, yeah, it's a lot of work to try to coordinate it on your own. So yeah, we also exist to try to walk you through the process and coordinate everything at once, and including all the rebates. So you don't have to do a bunch of guesswork.
Brad, you're on mute.
Sorry. Thank you guys so much, and appreciate you guys taking the time, and we'll make sure this gets distributed out into the community. So thank you guys.
All right. Thanks, Brad. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
All right, take care.
Bye.